We're talking to Lynne Williams, who is a career specialist. I guess we could go so far as to say that. And we're talking about different aspects of the job search and the way the world is changing. We talked about communications before the show, and I wanted to talk about that. But I also there's so many options for us to communicate. I feel like it gets lost sometimes in translation. If you wanted to call my grandmother, you dialed, Evergreen 20101, and she either picked up the phone on one of the two phones in the house, or you got a busy signal, or she didn't pick up. There wasn't 47 options for miscommunication. And it's like, you have to feel out people. And on some of our applications for our team, there's a line now where it says best way to reach you. Because it's different for different people.
That's true.
And we've gotten in some ways too many options. And then the people that I find very often, I see that the people that are most on their phone are the ones that suffer the most from bad communication skills. They don't get back to you. Yet I always see them looking at that phone, and I don't know what they're doing, but they're not responding to stuff. You use LinkedIn a lot. And I know that's a good way to reach you. And I've always been on the fence about LinkedIn, and I was slow. I've been on it for years, but I see a little change in it, and it worries me where it's coming a little Facebooky,
Yeah. Once they allowed videos to go on, we're not now getting just professional business related videos. We're getting all kinds of videos.
Right. I mean, the cats are coming to LinkedIn soon. It's going to happen.
Yeah, the cats are already there.
Yeah. And it used to be professional and semi-professional people talking about careers changing, careers marketing, education, things of that. And then I look on and it's getting a little opinionated, a little political, a little cat-ified.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, but it's still an absolute necessity of a platform to be on. As of December 2018, there are over 590 million people on LinkedIn, and every second around the world, 2 people join LinkedIn. So you don't want to be left out. You definitely need to be on LinkedIn. But the interesting thing is that even though people get on LinkedIn, they really don't know the strategies as to how to best optimize LinkedIn, especially with keywords in the right places. So at the Philadelphia Area Great Careers Group, we offer free LinkedIn training or inexpensive training. I teach 11 hours worth of content, and every month I do pro bono workshops at the Chester County Library in Exton, and they only have 23 computers. So if you wind up on their wait list, that's fine. You should still absolutely positively come, because you can sit and listen in lecture mode and still learn.
Do you do webinars?
We are working on getting to the webinar state. That will happen probably, I would say, within the next month. So www.greatcareersphl.org is our current website. And we've got a lot of exciting and innovative things in the works. So stay tuned.
Even a Facebook Live kind of thing, where you could just have multiples of people that get a glimpse. Because what we were talking about before with that letter is giving people, or you're talking about your videos, is breaking it down. And I like to give people enough in a video, enough snippets to make them want to see the whole thing and want to see what was wrapped around that statement.
Yes, I do think that we will have little snippets of information for micro learning, but we will also have the longer, hour-long versions available so that people can do a deep dive. There's really not a lot of depth you can go into in, 5 minutes or 15 minutes, but, it's enough where you could make some differences on your profile.
where do you do this at? You just said Chester County Library in Exton. Do you go into all the counties?
Right now, I'm just at the Chester County Library in Exton. I've been there over 5.5 years, training LinkedIn once a month, but that is only 9 hours worth of LinkedIn. I teach LinkedIn 1, 2, and 3, and the library does a beautiful thing for free. They do headshots for your LinkedIn profile for free, and when I teach LinkedIn Part 1 and LinkedIn Part 3. Now, there's another LinkedIn workshop I teach called Strategic Research-Based Approaches to LinkedIn. That happens to be my favorite one, and I did my inaugural keynote at Penn State Great Valley in October of 2016, and it's evolved a lot since then. And that's a typical 2-hour lecture versus the ones at the Chester County Library are more hands-on. I do a hybrid instruction.
Do you do things there where you have resume exchanges or things like that? Do they do anything like that?
Not from anything that I teach, but there are different organizations like PA Career Link, where you can work with people one-on-one for resumes. But, you ask 10 people how to write a resume and you're going to get 15 different answers. Same thing with LinkedIn. You ask 10 people how to do a LinkedIn profile, you're going to get 15 different answers.
I worked in career services at Temple when I was in college, and we went over and helped people with resumes. And there are rules, and there are more things that are clearly wrong than there are things that are clearly right. And then there's this huge gray area. At that time we were transitioning to whether or not people should have. I remember a person brought in a resume, and the background on the resume was a picture of them, and it was on a piece of a half-inch thick foam poster board, and the resume was on there, and it was very nice. But we were just it broke a couple rules, and were those rules valid to be broken? And because the person was in design, we said that was acceptable because of their vocation. If they were in accounting, it would be vain. In design, it's creative, and it's kind of different. And I've seen all kinds of little tricks that I'm sure have gone away and come back and stuff. And the thing where you send your resume in and you put a Post-it on it and write, call him, and put the Post-it on your own resume.
There you go.
And somebody say, oh, I got to call him.
That's a technique. Make friends with the cleaning people.
Yeah. And it's tough to say what is just entirely wrong. Some rules of thumb that I remember from back then were wrong. Resumes, clearly typos, bad grammar, things of that nature are clearly wrong. And don't go crazy with bold or large fonts, or don't try and be Picasso with it.
Well, you also have to note that when you have what I'm going to call a pretty resume, that pretty resume may not make it through the applicant tracking system unless it is what I'm going to call deconstructed. You have to take out all the formatting. You have to take out the bold, the italics. You have to change the font to Arial 12-point font. You have to take out all the borders and shading. And the only thing you can leave in there from the research that I have found is just solid black bullet points. So I might have a 2-page quote unquote pretty resume that may turn out to be a 3 or 4-page deconstructed resume. So on my LinkedIn profile, you will find in 2 places an article that I wrote for the Association of Talent Development, which is an international training and development organization. And they published this article on td.org, and it talks about tips and best practices for the applicant tracking system. Now, that particular article actually turned into a chapter of a book with 15 other career coaches from around the country, and you're not going to believe who wrote the foreword of it. Dick Bowles, the author of What Color's Your Parachute.
Oh, okay.
So that was a really cool thing that happened to me. And, they're still selling the book on the td.org website, but it's also available on Amazon.
Just a couple things that I think people would really want to know. When you're doing your resume, a rule of thumb, and nobody's holding you to this, how many jobs should you put in your history?
My typical rule of thumb is 12 to 15 years max. But let's say you have a job that you had for 20 years and it exceeds that rule. You can't break the job in the middle of the job.
Right.
You have to put it. So it's individual, by person. I typically like a 2-page resume. Sometimes it's a 3-page resume. It just depends on the person. It's all individualized.
So it might be safe to say 15 years or 3 jobs, whatever doesn't exceed that. Because you don't want to just put one job either. Well,
I just did a resume last week for a client who was with a company for 30 years.
Wow.
So he really, he survived 3 mergers or acquisitions, and he climbed the corporate ladder. So it was really segmenting the 3 companies that he worked for, but it was really the same one company in its evolutionary state.
Should we put dates on our resumes? Because I've heard mixed things on that.
I would. I think recruiters or hiring managers look at a resume and think you're trying to hide something if you don't put it on.
What if you just put years? Is that okay?
I typically put years on a resume, and I put the month and the year on the LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
I just think it looks neater. It's a formatting thing for me.
What about is volunteer experience still valuable on a resume?
I think it is. For example, if you volunteer at some particular soup kitchen or, food pantry or something like that, there may be that hiring manager that may be volunteering in the same type of arena, but maybe in a different county or with a different organization. And all of a sudden, you have something to talk about to build rapport.
I've found that when I've interviewed with people that they've been far more interested in my volunteer history than my actual job set. They want to talk about that, because that relates more to your character, your personal choice, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we are an all-volunteer organization. We have almost 3,800 members right now. And we believe, excuse me, that it takes a village, to build this organization where we tap into so many different people's talents and skills. So, for example, we had one volunteer who wanted to reinvent himself building Salesforce. So he used to work at Vanguard in database administration, and now he fell in love with Salesforce. Well, what's the best way to say you have an accomplishment is to build from scratch in Salesforce. So he built our whole Salesforce CRM. And then we have other people that are, doing marketing things and building our website and whatnot now. So we tap into people's talents. And so they can say that they were working for the Philadelphia Area Great Careers Group. And I'd be delighted to give them a recommendation because I can see their accomplishments, and many, many hundreds and hundreds of people that are active in the organization are benefiting from it.
Do recommendations, like on LinkedIn, there's a thing with recommendations, and I feel like sometimes it's almost like we're blackmailing each other for recommendations, or somebody will ask for one of you and you'll go, I don't want to do it, but then I've got to do it. Do